Great to be here in Phoenix. We're just going to try and simplify things for customers ultimately, and that's really what it's about, and make things easy rather than complicated, which they can be when you're dealing with cloud services. So basically I'm the founder and CEO of IMSCAD Global, which has spawned a company called the IMS Cloud, which I'll get into in a minute as well. But effectively, we've come from a certain market, which I'll share with you now, with Phoenix, and obviously meeting PhoenixNAP, we've actually created this environment now where actually they've got a fantastic infrastructure globally with their environment, and then we've got the services and the skill sets to deliver desktops or services around cloud with them. So it's just a perfect match. They don't really do the services piece as much, so we've just come in and worked on this and actually got this down now to a point where we see a big opportunity, right? So, and also for customers, I think there's a big opportunity as well to make your lives easier. Why do you want to manage a desktop anymore, really, on a local level? I mean, there may be reasons around data, compliance, maybe you're not sure, maybe you are sure about the cloud. You know, there's all these specific reasons that customers have different reasons for whatever they do. Maybe loss of control, maybe, you know, there's that whole kind of culture shift from what you've been used to for a number of years. So what we're trying to do now is demystify it, and not only demystify it, but simplify it, as I said. And it's all about a service wrap, because what we've found, and we're AWS partners, okay, so we sell cloud and we sell various different things in the cloud to lots of customers all over the world. And one thing that really stands out is the complexity of deployment. And also not just deployment, but managing it, right? So managing the costs, understanding the costs, understanding what you're getting billed and when. And there's a whole problem at the moment, in my view, with the cloud, that it's too complicated for a lot of people. And that will mean you'll probably do nothing. You may look at it, try it out, but you know, in reality, moving your 100 people or your 1,000 people or whatever it is over to a cloud-based service, you know, you need a kind of feeling that, you know, you're going to get looked after ultimately, and not have to do it yourself all the way. Now, some people can do it, and some people have done it themselves. Don't get me wrong, it can be done, but it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of trial and error and work. And it's what we do at IMSCAD. So, you know, what we're trying to do now is just bring that service level into a simplistic desktop deployment for you guys. So instead of having all these kind of distributed desktops and users, and you know, you centralize everything into the cloud, and then you have a managed service effectively. And even to a point where we don't have to go fully managed service, we can just go, you know, we can still let you administer it yourselves. So there's a number of different ways of cutting it up, but the principle's the same. You know, why do you need to waste time almost managing desktops, patching, updating, all the things you have to do with desktops, managing the hardware, renewing the hardware. You know, all this stuff is costly and time consuming when you can just have it done for a similar cost of what it costs you, probably lesser cost than what it costs you at the moment. So we like to call it a private cloud in a public cloud infrastructure. All right. Now, the reason I say that, we're not AWS, we're not Azure, okay. We're PhoenixNAP and IMSCAD, but ultimately what it means is that those guys sell the instances, they sell workspaces, they call it, they sell AppStream, there's all these different services they offer. But you never really know what you're getting, right? They'll give you an instance, they'll give you a virtual environment, but you're never quite sure what processor it's running on, where it's running from, where's it, you know, and there's a lot of uncertainty of what you're really getting. And also, ultimately, obviously, you can pick it up and put it down hourly, right? So there is quite a benefit there. So what we're trying to do here is slightly different. We're actually making it as if you're investing in something real for your business. So what I mean by that is they're bare metal servers. So they're real servers in the data center here, right? So you can go and touch and feel them. You know what specification they're at. We'll design that for you to do the job. We'll also have, you know, people on hand to help you understand why is that, because it's all about your applications ultimately, right? It's all about the application mix versus resource that you get. And you know, unfortunately, with the main public cloud providers, I'd say the complexities are such that you're never quite sure what you're paying for and how much it's going to cost you. So what we're trying to do is make it predictable costs. As I say, a private cloud effectively for your business, but run in a public cloud infrastructure. So it's again about the service wrap. We'll obviously want you to embrace the cloud. We don't want you to feel like it's a scary place that you can't really do this stuff. Of course, there's lots of opportunity to do this with lots of other different providers, right? There's lots of services out there offered all the time. It's not about taking 50 desktops from someone and then $30 a month because it's the cheapest option, right? So it's about building a storage infrastructure. It's about building your application mix. Your users need to be happy that they can access it, contact it. Because the other big thing with this is another good reason to do desktop as a service is for DR purposes, right? So disaster recovery, to have people be able to work wherever they want to work, whenever they want to do it. It's been said so many times about any place, anywhere, anytime, but actually really achieving that is another matter. And that's really what people want, is mobility of where they work and not have to be tied to the office, wherever that is. All right. So, we understand that. And the reason we understand that at IMSCAD is because we've built a business basically on Citrix and VMware desktop delivery, but in a private cloud. So this is where people buy their own servers. And not only buy their own servers, but we have to do the whole GPU virtualization thing, which you may or may not have heard of. But it's about graphics cards and servers to offer graphical applications, and that is the complicated bit, right? In actual fact, that's actually the tough stuff, right? And that's where we built our business on. So we're pretty much the global leaders, I must say, in this space. And we've got, as it says there, we've got over 650 deployed customers with NVIDIA-based graphical desktops running, architects, engineers, construction companies, manufacturers, automotive, that use these heavy apps and data. So we've done that for a long time, 7 years. And so all that experience we've got in our team, we're now bringing in to deliver with PhoenixNAP a desktop offering. And not just, put the graphics to one side, a Windows desktop offering. Okay. We've got a global customer base, so we're based in the UK. The reason I put that up there, so where London is obviously in the UK. And then obviously there was a wedding recently where UK and America became together. All right, so it was fantastic. So what I was going to say was, we're only a flight away. But we're used to this. We have 70% of our customers in the US, and we have no staff in the US. I know it sounds crazy, but it's just the way it's growing that way, and it works quite well for us because obviously our key core guys are there, our engineers. They're all got knowledge sharing all the time. They're in the one place. It makes a big difference. We've just learned through a lot of trial and error about how delivering desktops. And now we're just going to translate that into the cloud offering with PhoenixNAP. And that's what the IMS Cloud is all about. So the IMSCloud.com is our new vehicle for this. And it's all about, as I say, this idea of moving your local desktops and putting them into the cloud, but with a service wrap and with support, okay, not just having to do it all yourself. And also I'd say applications as well, because applications we shouldn't forget about, because many applications can't translate to Windows 10, they can't, the legacy stuff that you've had for a long time that's critical to any business. And that's a great opportunity to then put those maybe apps in the cloud and run those from a server in PhoenixNAP, because then you've got, you've taken away all that kind of issue around, access and everything else that you've got to kind of have locally. So there is an opportunity with applications just individually as well. Any of you do desktop as a service at the moment, or fully understand it, or they can be a bit problematic even on a local level, right? So, data gets very big and design data becomes very big. So obviously with translating that, from a private cloud into a cloud is a similar thing. And this is why the bare metal server option is such a good option when you can get it in the cloud. The only other provider to offer a bare metal server cloud option that I've come across is IBM. And we work with them as well, actually, interestingly, in Europe. And they, offer this. And people sometimes say, well, it's not that flexible, it's real kit, it's not like what we should be doing with instances, we can scale up and down quicker. But it's not about that, it's about actually having a consistent, predictable service that you don't have to spend hours managing and actually just get on with life and do something more creative and more productive for your business. Now, desktop should be just run-of-the-mill delivery, right? So, all these reasons here are reasons for doing it, okay? Disaster recovery is a great reason, right? Disaster recovery is a great way to start, okay? To start with your user base, to have a remote desktop. It doesn't have to be run on Citrix or VMware. It can just be run on RDP, a remote desktop protocol, depending on the applications. But that's what we'll help you do. We'll scope out exactly what you need, what is required for your business to get the best possible result for your users. Because if the users don't use it, there's no point investing in it, right? So, the users need their desktops to work and be reliable. And of course, in a local level, that sometimes isn't the case as well, right? So there's a number of reasons why you would do this. So we offer a bring your own license model, right? So you have to do it this way, unfortunately, with our friends at Microsoft. But, ultimately we have to invite you to bring your licenses into the environment. We have a license server in the cloud. We have your data in the cloud. We have some storage probably as well on the back end. And then you have your desktops delivered out to your users via a little client. They just log in and there's a desktop wherever they are, whatever they're doing, as long as you've got an internet connection. What's great about it is predictable performance, right? There's no issue around, even Azure had a massive outage recently, right? So, these guys, it does happen, but with these servers, they've got such a great inventory here at PhoenixNAP that actually you've got very quick turnaround in any issue that happens if a drive goes or whatever. But the good thing about having a bare metal option is that we can then really kind of spec it appropriately. If you're just running Microsoft and internet for users, just basic desktops, we can do that on AWS, right, if we want it. No problem. This is more than that. This is about, really getting that resource right for your need. And every client's different, right? Every client's got different reasons for doing it. Every client's got different requirements. So we're very much on that consultative level with you, through the process. We've got, just on the graphics side, if you imagine, like Brian mentioned earlier, NVIDIA cards, right? So you may not be graphical guys. I know a lot of you aren't. I won't spend too long on it, but these are the high-end. And this is really, with PhoenixNAP now, this is the first global graphical desktop as a service, GDAS we call it, but it's graphical desktop as a service. So, graphics really delivers good performance with lots of different things, including Windows. And Windows 10 particularly does benefit from having a graphics card or some sort of graphics acceleration in it. Everything's getting more graphical. Everything we use gets more graphical. Video, apps, everything. Everything we go to, it's graphics, pictures, always things moving. So, graphics is becoming more and more ingrained in IT and what we need. And, all right, they're not cheap, these cards, right? They're sort of $5,000 to $7,000 each for an NVIDIA card. So they're not a cheap investment, but if you've got graphical applications, you've got no choice because you're buying them in a local server, a local workstation anyway. So your local workstation is spec'd out to the max probably, and pretty much, and it's probably hardly ever used, right, to the max. So the good thing about consolidating into the cloud is the resource is spread fairly and equally, and you're not wasting resource. But the graphical side of it is where I say, we built our business ultimately with GPUs. Now, without graphics, of course, we're then talking into your Windows 10 migration or your Windows 7 to 10 or your 8 to 10 or whatever you're doing or looking to do in the future. That's a great time to look at this because that is when, quite frankly, that is the time you should be looking at it because I challenge anyone to tell me that it's more cost effective to keeping it on site. And I'll get to that in a minute. But ultimately, we've got two different ways we deploy. Well, three, including the applications. But, everyone's heard of VDI, right? So VDI has been around years, apparently. It's always going to take off VDI. Everyone's going to use it. But it's never really quite worked that way. But for some companies, it's absolutely essential. For some others, it's not so much. But all VDI is really is obviously a virtual desktop. But it's dedicated resource for a user. That's all it is, right? So it's committed resource, like you have on a local workstation or a laptop. All right. Now that's great in certain situations, like particularly where we come from graphics deployments, because they need that resource. They need GPU, they need CPU, they need RAM, they need to know they're getting it. Whereas published desktops is another way of approaching it, which is things like if you use something like, if anyone knows Citrix or VMware, you use either XenApp or Horizon View, VMware View, which is basically a way of sharing the resource across the server. So without getting too technical, effectively you could have 50 to 100 desktops on one server, all right, from PhoenixNAP on a shared published desktop environment. Okay, so it's all about the lowest common denominator. It's all about concurrency of user, right, and resource. So if someone wants a 6 gig desktop, right, and they're just an office worker, you can times that up, by the RAM and by the amount of what you think, who will be logging on when and how, because you could have 100 people on a server, but you only ever get no more than 30 actually using it. And this is where the DR solution kind of fits in, the disaster recovery solution, because you could then look at, actually, I could have 2 servers running 200 people as a DR solution. And actually, at the same time, they could still use it because they're going to pay for it anyway, as a remote access opportunity, to have a published desktop. So that is just really publishing apps. So publishing your Windows Outlook, or a couple of your normal sort of Office apps, and then you obviously need your data and storage behind it. But effectively, it's a great way of really maximising the resource of a bare metal server. So, we've got customers, I've got a customer who's got 500 users on something like, I think they've got like 8 servers or something. It's like quite, and they never really hit the max. And of course, there gets a point if you do max out and you get 50 users on it when you're only expecting 30, that the resource will suddenly go, and the performance will really degrade. But you can try that, you can test that. You can test that before you even commit to that. But effectively, you always get a lot more than you think as concurrent users. So it's just another way of deploying, right? And you may have a combination of a VDI environment and a published desktop environment. You may have that. So you may have some users that need the dedicated resource, like maybe the bosses, because they think they need more resource than anyone else, all right? And then you've got the, published desktop guys that just get the remote, shared environment. And then, of course, the hosted applications, as I said before, is just more of an individual application being hosted on the server for users to access in the cloud. So what we've done here is just try to simplify it a little bit, because obviously I can get into talking about a bit more detail about that with you privately, but ultimately we've driven it into 3 levels. There's always 3 levels of user, okay? So, most people fit into that office worker space, so it's just normal, Microsoft Office, internet. I'll put accountancy on there just because that's what I came up with, but effectively basic applications that don't need a lot of resource. And then you've got knowledge workers who need a bit more. They may be using other things like Adobe, Excel at length, where they need a bit more horsepower in the server. And then that's this kind of middle ground. And then you've got your power users, which is more like, maybe someone who needs a GPU or needs some sort of heavy application they're running, right? So most people fall in that office worker, knowledge worker space. And these are the guys that you can really look at that shared environment as well. More often not, because with VDI, of course, you're needing more servers to deliver the solution, right? So, because it's dedicated resource. Just to give you a feel for it, and don't hold me to these prices, please, right? But I'll put them on there, but just to give you a feel for it, and this includes the server, the service, the setup. This is sort of ballpark, okay? Now, we don't work like AWS and Azure. We don't work like that. We don't do hourly, spin it up, spin it down, try it, put it down, pick it up. It's all about getting that right performance and committed to, customers to getting something that really works for them, not just, hopefully it may work, we'll try it, but we can stop it in a month if we don't like it. We don't want to get into that really, so we always offer a minimum 12-month contract. We're not doing monthly. It just makes it, because we've got to build out the infrastructure for you, we've got to set it all up for you. So we need that commitment back, and that's the way we're going to go about it. Because if you're not committing to 12 months, it's not really a serious thing, right? So obviously we can do longer contracts and reduce the cost, ultimately, if you're going to commit to a longer period. But to give you a feel, that office worker range, $30 to $60 per desktop per month, that's really not bad, okay? I know what AWS charge, right, and at best, so, it's certainly comparable. And also, you have to set it up yourself with AWS. So you've got all that time and effort spent, all right? So this is obviously not including, you see the small print, excluding storage or bandwidth, right? But that can vary, we can get into that when you come down to it. But you can see it escalates up, obviously, the more resource you need, of course. But on that office worker area, that could be, we could get 60, 70 users on the server just for a basic desktop for these guys on concurrency. Maybe 30 users concurrent. And the cost could come down maybe even further. So it's just about what you've got as a business, what you're looking to do. I have to tell you, there is a minimum. We've got to really look at a minimum of 20 desktops. Otherwise, it's not really worth it, not just for us, but for PhoenixNAP as well, because you've got to commit to one server. That's really where we're at with it. So, if it's less than that, really, it's not worth it unless you're doing, there might be some value in doing a DR offering instead. But, effectively, it can go up to, we've got customers paying us $300-400 a month for the more powerful thing. But, you think what a heavy workstation can be, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 anyway. Plus you don't have to manage it, plus you don't have to do updates, plus you don't have to look after it. And you get our service wrap. So just to give you a feel for it, that's kind of the areas of money we're looking at. And now, this is something I came up with, you know, on the plane actually, because I was just thinking, hey, I don't want to be like kind of standing up here telling you this, and then, you know, this is it, this is what you have to do, it's commitment for 12 months, and this, that, and the other. You know, we want to find a way to make it more palatable for customers to try. And obviously, we offer a free demo, right? So that's something everyone can offer out to any customer. And for 24 hours, we'll give you a desktop, and you can play around with it, and you'll have Windows on it, and you have whatever app. We'll put an app on it for you if you want. And you can try it out, you know, and that's free, okay? There's no commitment to that. But then if you want to move forward, you know, and obviously what we ask now here is what we've said is, look, it's a 12-month contract minimum, right? So that's what we're going with. But actually what we're saying is we can make it a 14-month contract, but the first 2 months will run as effectively a POC, all right? So proof of concept. And we're willing, because we trust what performance we can give on these desktops, you know, to let you have an out at 60 days. So if you don't like it, if you don't feel that it's been supported, developed, built, you know, users aren't happy, and you're not committed to it, we'll let you leave after 2 months. Okay, and then we can just walk away as friends and didn't work for you, fine. Okay, now that's a big risk for us, because obviously we've got to build it all out. It's a lot of work that goes into setting all this up. All right, but we're asking you to commit to the 12-month contract before that starts. So, you know, you're basically committed to doing it, but we will give you an out if you really don't like us or you really don't like what we're delivering, okay? So that's just something I'm going to put in there as an extra benefit if you wanted to do something. So you've got to pay for the 2 months, right? But obviously you can leave. It's not committed to another 12 months if you don't like it, right? So there is a cost. So it's got to be a minimum 1 server. So probably 20 user kind of area. I would suggest, you know, maybe you could just do 10 users on a POC. You don't even have to commit to 20. But I think, you know, if you got to that point where you're serious about it, I think it's a fair sort of thing to offer. I don't think from my perspective, I don't see it. Customers we deal with, I think, you know, just to give you the option to walk away if you don't really want to do it because we haven't done our job properly or it doesn't work very well, whatever, you know, I think it's fair to say that to everyone, but we'll try really hard to get it absolutely perfect for you in that 60 days for you then to have, and then hopefully beyond 12 months, right? So, yeah, and the pricing will only come down, it will never go up. That's the other thing with this stuff. I mean, unless you're adding stuff to it, you know, there's only one way it's going to go, okay? So the prices I'm quoting you are where they are today, but things change and things will only come down. So it's a minimum 12-month sign-up, okay, and it run alongside your current environment. So we're not saying move all your current desktops over to do this necessarily straight away. Just run it alongside with the people. You run it as a DR solution. And if you really like it, then just commit to it for the next 12 months. That's all we're saying, okay? It's all about getting business acceptance because, you know, it's important and users can be quite tough sometimes to convince that it's a good idea. That's not allowed, let alone the bosses that pay the bills. So, you know, we find that it's, you know, getting that user acceptance, particularly where we come from the graphic space, is imperative, right? Unless you have the users liking it, forget it, they're not going to use it because they like their workstations. So yeah, it's just a try before you buy almost kind of setup, but you are committing before you do the POC. Now we could obviously, as the bottom point says, we'll do a separate one if you want to do it a different way. It's just an offer we provide. If you wanted to just, you know, actually, look, I want to do a month, 5 users, you know, I can give you a price for that, and then we'll just do that, okay? So don't worry, it's not the end, it's not set in stone. You don't have to do this, but obviously, you know, you might want to do it your own way. So we'll help you with that as well. So everything's on the table, but I thought that was a nice sort of offering to lead in with. So to summarise, you know, cloud setup is complicated, right? If you don't know what you're doing, and believe me, there's a lot of, certainly in the mid-market, customers and IT people that maybe say they know what they're doing, but you know, we've seen it firsthand. They struggle because it's complex. You know, AWS is very complex to set up things in it, and also, you know, maybe you'll work with a partner, maybe you won't, but they take their pound of flesh. We obviously charge for our services. We're supporting your users. Obviously, we're supporting, you know, effectively first line, but effectively, you know, it's all about offering that consultative approach at the start and understanding. We've got loads of experience in this stuff. We'll understand what your users need and what you think you need. So, you know, we'll be able to scope out the right solution to fit your business. And then obviously Outsourcing the desktops and management of that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense in my view. I mean, I don't see why anyone would need to manage desktops really, because it's more about just the data side of it and where you want to, if you're comfortable putting your data up in the cloud. But these day and age, these guys are great at security as well. It's not, they can't say they're better, they're any worse than you running your business at security, right? So cloud providers are so hot on it. It's not about graphics, as I say, for us, but it's about just your normal office workers. That's what we're looking for. And we do a lot of jobs. I mean, we've just done a big build down in Texas, actually, and we did it all remotely from London, right? Just give access to the servers. We give them the server specs we need to go and get the servers. We just remote in, build it all out, stack, Citrix VMware, bang, all virtualized, done. That's a private cloud, basically, built, and we just manage it. And then, the bare metal server gives us this option to be very flexible in how we deploy it and how we do the sort of user groups and how we go about it. As I said, I've got a 24-hour open free demo, no obligation. Just let us know and we'll set you up. And then, I'm going to talk to your PhoenixNAP account manager. I've just had the sales team in, so they're all aware now. If you use anyone here, work with anyone here at PhoenixNAP, if you want to find out more, just ask them. I'm around for a few hours, so feel free to grab me and have a look at our website, theimscloud.com. Thanks for listening.